Well, we didn't really expect any trades, but we got two big ones in the PWHL on trade deadline day. It wasn't exactly trade center, but as the actual hour of the deadline approached, there came word of two possible trades being submitted to the league office, and both involved Ottawa. The first word we got was that Montreal had traded to Ottawa Teresa Venisheva, who is 28 years old and a very strong forward for Montreal, who's gone through a couple of peaks and valleys, but definitely very talented. So that wasn't too surprising to hear that Ottawa might want to get another Czech player on their roster, since they already have Aneta Terilova and Katarina Mrazova, and Coach Carla McLeod is, of course, the coach of the Czech national team. Also, with Ottawa right now sitting just outside that fourth playoff spot in a tight race with Boston, it wasn't too surprising to see that they wanted to tweak their roster. They've lost so many overtime and shootout games this year. Maybe they needed that extra offensive push. So as we waited to hear who might be the player in return, the name surfaced and it was Amanda Boucher. So Boucher is 30 years old, and in her 17 games so far, she has 6 points, 1 goal, 5 assists. And she's pretty much an offensive defender, which is something that Montreal needed to add to their roster. As you know, they lost Dominika Lashkova early on at the beginning of February. Not expecting to see her back, maybe in the playoffs, but with that whole gaping on the D for Montreal, GM Danielle Sauvageau jumped in and made this trade. What might have helped is that they have added Michaela Grant-Mentis, of course, as an offensive forward who can probably fill a similar role on the second or third line for Montreal. Catherine Daou has been taking that spot, but not as strong as she'd hoped, with a -1 rating through her 18 games, and the other defenders are +4. Montreal is, of course, among the top scoring teams in the league, but they allow more goals than any other top 3 team. So Boucher would be a good replacement there, a puck-moving defenseman, and she's on a 1-year deal. And Venisheva, going the other way, is on a 2-year deal. I don't know if that played a big role, but Ottawa got the extra year from Venisheva, who's 28 and has 10 points, 2 goals, 8 assists in her 17 games played so far. And as we know, Ottawa's been trying for weeks to kind of shake up their lineup and get the offense going. They've been in so many tight games and so many one-goal games. After they released Grant-Mentis, they added Rosalie Demers, and she's been a pretty good performer. So Zoe Boyd, who's been a healthy scratch lately, will have to jump back into the lineup and show that she's got what it takes for Ottawa there on D. And here's a look at what their lineup could look like. I would pencil in Venisheva on the third line, although they might want to play her with Mrazova for some instant chemistry. That would certainly not be a big surprise. And Mike Hirschfeld said this of Venisheva: "Obviously, our coach knows exactly what she brings to the table. She's an incredibly exciting top 6 forward who's under contract for next season as well." So that played a role in the decision since he mentioned it. She's one of the best skaters in the world, and we're thrilled to add that dimension to our roster. So a little more offensive push with sacrificing maybe something on the back end for Ottawa. And so for Montreal, their roster could look something like this. We'll pencil Boucher in there on the second pair. So then, they've got Madison Bizal to come up and play, and Catherine Daou can be the 7th defender there. We hope that Poulin is back for the playoff push. Keep in mind there are only 5 games left for every team once they come back from the Women's World Championships. So it's going to be a sprint to the finish line. Here's a look at the schedule of games, and it does feel like Toronto, Minnesota, and Montreal are pretty safe in their spots. Boston and Ottawa probably making a run for that last spot and trying to get 3 points in their games instead of just 2 or 1 as they've done lately. And New York, who didn't make any trades, is sitting in 6th. But Ottawa wasn't done there, and this is when the more controversial blockbuster came through. One of the most popular players on the Ottawa roster, Lexie Adzija, who is straight out of the NCAA, so a rookie this year in the PWHL, 23 years old, and made a big splash on social media and in the community in Ottawa. Definitely a fan favorite. She was traded to PWHL Boston for Cheyenne Darkangelo. and the waves and the ripples started to appear on social media as fans reacted to this one. Adzija, of course, started off very hot this year, but has cooled off lately. She started with 5 points in her first 5 games, and now after her 17 games has the 5 goals and 3 assists. She is familiar with the Boston area since she's from Quinnipiac University, where she was a pretty good scorer there, and she's also on a 1-year contract. Coming the other way to Ottawa from Boston is Cheyenne Darkangelo, a 30-year-old, more of a veteran, who really hasn't performed offensively this year with just 1 assist in her 17 games after a pretty successful career in the PHF, where she was captain of the Toronto Six for 3 seasons and had 20 goals and 28 assists for 48 points in 50 games there. So there's definitely more for her to give, and according to Hirschfeld, again, Darkangelo is a veteran player who's been through battles and playoff races. So the importance there is trading a rookie for someone who's been there and won championships. We wanted to add her experience to our roster. She's going to work hard and bring veteran leadership. So the word veteran is used there twice, pretty much indicating what he thinks that his team needed and why they gave up on a young player. Now, keep in mind, these players are on 1-year contracts, so trading is a roll of the dice, but it doesn't necessarily have, the big backfire effect, even though these are 2 teams I'm surprised to see trade with each other. If either Darkangelo or Adzija take off and thrive in their new teams, it's not going to look great for the other side. But it's a roll of the dice for each one to get into the playoffs, and they added what they think they needed. From the Boston point of view, there's just been something missing in their chemistry. They've shuffled lines. They did trade for Susanna Tapani. And then Lauren Gable, we're not sure if she's going to be on the final roster. I have a feeling she might be on the LTIR after taking a hard hit and looking like she might be out for a bit. So their lines might shake out like this. I would expect to see Adzija in a top 6 role there. Maybe a third line, but Coach Kessel has been mixing up Mueller with Knight, Gable, Rattray. I would expect Adzija to add a strong power play presence, which will be really important. And we did see Hillary Knight show signs of life, so if she goes to the Women's World Championship and has a good run there, look out for them coming into the stretch run. Ottawa did also include basically the rights to Katrin Lonergan, who is taking a year off. She's 26, and she played at Boston College and is from that area, so probably a good chance she might sign with Boston if that's what they're looking for. She had pretty good numbers in the PHF, but won't be a factor this year. So what did you think of trade day? Were you surprised that Ottawa made this many moves? And what do you think of the new-looking lineups for each one? We're going to see them in action starting Wednesday and Saturday. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We have a lot of viewers, but the percentage of people watching is not as high as the subscribers, and it really helps the YouTube algorithm find us and helps you find the content. So let me know what you thought of the trades. I thought they were really interesting and going to take some time to unpack. And I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one.